everyone, my name is Shanae. I'm the face of the Nanny Chef Doula. So I just wanted to hop on here and just share a little bit about myself. Just wanted to talk about my childcare journey, how I got here, what was I doing before I started working with kids, and just what that journey looks like for me. So I was born and raised in New York City. I lived there for most of my life. I moved to Fort Worth, Texas in March of 2022. I absolutely love Fort Worth. I adore it. I wish I would have moved here sooner, but I'm here, so better late than never, right? So when I lived in New York City, I mostly worked in the culinary field, back of the house. And even when I moved here, I also was still working back of the house. But when I moved here, I did decide that I wanted to just try something new. I wanted to do something different. And for a little over 10 years, I worked in the culinary world, but like for 7 of those years was professionally cooking. And then for, I want to say 3-4 of those years was more like front of the house, supervisory work in the front of the house, catering department. I absolutely love food. I absolutely love good service, hospitality. I love catering to people. So it kind of makes sense why I would go into like nannying and meal prepping for families. And it all kind of just comes together in some way. But I first started working with kids. I was working at a private school in Dallas, and I was a part of the catering department. So I was responsible for doing all the catering, setting up the catering. And I was also responsible for setting up the meals for the Montessori school. And I never had heard of Montessori before working at this private school. But I started to notice that the best part of my day every day was always interacting with the kids, saying hi to the teachers, setting up the food. That was the best part of my day. So I started to think like, what would it be like to work with kids? And I always had an inkling towards wanting to work with kids. I just didn't know what capacity. At first I wanted to like teach kids about food. That was like one part or maybe one way I could have gone with that. But I just knew I wanted to work with kids, but I didn't know what way. So I shot my shot and I started applying for daycare jobs, and that's when I found Guidepost Montessori, and I'm very, very grateful for them because that's really what started my childcare journey. And that's what really started my my philosophy, my Montessori philosophy, and really applying that to every household that I work in. So I worked for them for about like 6 months, and I absorbed all the training, all the knowledge, and I was hired for the toddler classroom, but I also ended up working in the Nido room, which is the infant room, and also the children's house room, which is the 3 to 6-year-old room. So I worked in all of the rooms. I was hired as an assistant, but due to staffing shortages, I would also step into the lead role quite often for all of the rooms. So I got comfortable really quickly with working with different age groups and just, classroom management and different temperaments. I feel like I've got really comfortable really quickly. So I used that experience to then branch off into nannying, and then that's when I discovered care.com, and I started applying and going on meet and greets to get a nanny job, and I started babysitting for a bunch of families. And yeah, ever since then I've just been working with kids, and I've been connecting with families via different platforms, and some I've gotten jobs via word of mouth. I'm really passionate about kids. I'm really passionate about food, and my brand is really about like health and wellness and just holistic living and intentional living, and I just really want to help families as much as I can. And I feel like I know a lot about food, and I know a lot about just children. So in any way that I can help families, that brings me joy. But that's pretty much how I got here. It was literally me just working in the culinary world for so long, wanting a change, moving here, working at a school, being introduced to the Montessori, and then falling in love with Montessori, and then the rest is kind of history with me just working with kids. But yeah, so that's kind of just me in a nutshell. But until next time, guys.